back to our series, where we are revisiting the invention of photography and the stories of the people who help make things happen. As this is part 16 of the series, if you missed the first episodes, you may want to pause this video and start from part 1. In this episode, we hop aboard the Freedom Train. An English photographer and inventor, C. Wellborn Piper, wanted to elevate photography printing to a fine art. He invented the bromoil process in 1907, where a gelatin silver bromide print is first soaked in a bath of dilute potassium dichromate, which oxidizes and hardens the gelatin. While still moist, the print is inked, and the parts where the gelatin is hardest results in the most ink being transferred, while the softer gelatin parts take up less ink. The print had to be well washed to get rid of the chromic acid, or it would discolor over time. The resulting print created a painterly effect and was popular amongst those in the pictorialist movement. In 1908, Leo, Audubard, and Bardat, an English company, were issued the first patent for a portable 35mm camera. It was one of many patents and prototypes the company applied for, but very few were ever built. Not much is known about the company, and it may have been involved in making and selling photographic equipment. Their design did not achieve any widespread success or recognition at the time. Nonetheless, it was a very important first step, and one that would be overshadowed by inventions that were yet to come. Another English photographer, who was also a commercial postcard printer, Fred Judge, invented the bromoil transfer process in 1909. Essentially, he took Piper's process and solved the issue of the bromoil print yellowing due to the potassium dichromate not being thoroughly washed from the paper. The inked bromoil had a piece of paper placed over top, and then the resulting sandwich was run through a press, which transferred the ink to the paper. The ink takes on the texture of the paper it is being printed on. Different papers could be used, and several inkings and transfers from the one bromoil are possible. Mr. David W. Lewis of Colander, Ontario, near North Bay, is the current resident expert on both of these methods. He teaches this process and has published several books. If you recall, Edison's kinetoscope, 1893, used 35mm gauge film for motion pictures. The film used in Kodak still cameras was about twice as large as that. Now, fortunately, we didn't have a VHS versus Betamax situation occurring at the turn of the 20th century, as the Lumiere brothers adopted the same film width as what Edison used. Being mindful that the film is traveling vertically, for cinefilm, 35mm represents the width of the film from the outside edge to outside edge, not the actual size of the frame itself. In 1908, cinefilm was starting to be used for stills photography. Some cameras of that time had the film go vertically through the camera as well. In the not-too-distant future, someone will recognize that having the film travel horizontally rather than vertically will result in a larger space in which to record an image. Between 1910 and 1919, some major things happened. There were also a lot more inventions happening, and I've tried to keep things simple here. In the same year, the Panama Canal opens and World War I erupts. After the war, women get the right to vote in Canada, and in Milton, the influenza epidemic comes home. Just before the start of World War I, there were some interesting developments and milestones. Born in 1871, Ernst Leitz II was destined to work at his father's business, and Dad made sure he had some skills and training before becoming a partner in the company when he was 35. Ernst trained as a merchant and apprenticed as a mechanic prior to this, so he had more than just a basic understanding of how things were before taking on added responsibilities at the Ernst Leitz Optische Werk. There were two things that he did that would change the camera industry. First, in 1911, he hired Oscar Barnack from Carl Zeiss to design and make a camera that was portable. We'll talk about Oscar in a few moments, along with what Ernst's second important contribution was. Prior to this, in 1913, Ernst developed the world's first microscope that had binocular eyepieces instead of a single eyepiece. In 1933, as soon as Hitler came to power, and at great risk, Leitz, a Lutheran Christian, undertook a humanitarian effort to provide assistance to 86 people, mostly of the Jewish faith, to immigrate to other countries, mostly the United States. He provided them with money, letters of recommendation, and if they went to New York, employment at Light's offices until they could find another job. This was called the Leica Freedom Train. Kodak was expanding their presence in the marketplace. In 1905, they acquired the Vollmer and Schwing Manufacturing Company, a metalworking company who started to also make single-lens reflex cameras with focal plane shutters in 1898. In 1912, they developed a ubiquitous camera, the Graphex Speed Graphic, something that was manufactured for 61 years. Popular as a press and sports camera, it also found a home with fine arts photographers as well. It had a vertical focal plane shutter, which allowed it to have a shutter speed of 1/1000th of a second. The lenses used no longer had the shutter built into them, and the camera with bellows would fold up into a compact size when not in use. There were 3 different film sizes that the camera used, with 4 by 5 inch models being the most popular. The distinction of the first commercially available camera using 35mm cinefilm goes not to the Germans nor the Japanese, but to the Americans. The New Ideas Manufacturing Company of New York built the Tourist multiple camera in 1913, which came with a Zeiss Tessar f3.5 lens, which had a 2-foot minimum focusing distance. The film was run vertically through the camera like the cinematic cameras of the day did, and a roll of film could make up to 750 images. If a lantern was attached, it could become a projector. The cost of the camera would set you back US $175, which is the equivalent of US $5,600 in 2024. The reason why there are so many doctors and dentists who were photographers was that they were the only ones who could afford the equipment. Please join us the next time when we keep things simplex, take a big risk, circumnavigate the globe twice, and take a bow, and more. We look forward to you being with us.